And welcome to my apparently now annual Archive Thrifting Spooktacular, which rather perversely is probably the least weird and least scary video I do all year in any given year. With that, slightly contradicting myself, we're gonna kind of ease into the season with this one. So today we're going to kick things off with a visit to one of my kind of now patented once a year type stores. And then we're going to hit up a store that I have never featured on Archive Thrifting before. And then we will get into some of the more regular haunts, if you will, and some more seasonally appropriate material. So with that, let's go buy some crap. And yes, like all archive thrifting episodes, this is presented in scary 3D puke-o-vision. No, that's not a time lapse. The clouds really were moving that quickly. Anyway, we're making our annual visit to First Cash and Exchange to kick things off today. Holy crap. Is that an actual cigar box guitar? Never seen one of these in person before. And no, I didn't even attempt to play it. No idea if 90 bucks is a good price or not. Found one of those little hybrid banjo ukulele deals, which I don't know what I would ever do with. They wanted $100 for it. I have no idea if that's good. Otherwise, I'm a rotten banjo player. There's kind of a reason you rarely hear it on my records. But I'd still like one of these nice solid ones someday, with the back and everything. In the cassettes, I found something quite enticing. Porky's keyboard. So many ways I could go with that. Judging from the tape design, I'd guess this dates from the late 90s or so. Anyway, it turns out they had 6 tapes of that stuff, and yeah, I picked up all of them. Otherwise, some more local stuff, like this one from Johnny Raymond. And given that this tape is from 1980 and the address listed on the J card has long since been torn down and rebuilt and repurposed, I think I'm safe with that one. Otherwise, a cup of Christmas tea, which is apparently part of a book on tape and not local and not all that interesting. Uh-oh, Jerry Junk strikes again. And like the last time I found one of his tapes, he still seems to have a knack for picking out some unexpected tunes. I'm guessing Louisiana Lou is the Allman Brothers tune anyway. Pulled some choice 78s to look at. And yes, kids, I've Got a Lovely Bunch of Coconuts is a real song. It's not something Ryan Stiles made up on Whose Line Is It Anyway? Otherwise, we've got some sound booth discs, and they had some sound effects discs, and yes, they really do date back this far. I found a souvenir sound booth disc from Hawaii, recorded in 1950, and there it is, and of course before it was a state. And behind that, I found a true archive classic.
Get out those old records, those old phonograph records.
Nice to see the electronics still haven't really turned over. The only seemingly new noteworthy thing I saw was effectively a really fancy one of those Radio Shack AB switches, but this one has 5 inputs and the ability to handle component video and optical audio. Don't have any great use for it though, and certainly not at 90 bucks. And the final haul from this store consists of yet another Hit Records 45. Dribble off those Bobby Brooks. With apparently Tim Harden's less successful brother on the back. I also picked up two of the 78s, the two that actually looked semi-playable, the Hawaiian Souvenir Sound Booth recording from 1950, and one of the sound effects discs, all telephone noises. So I guess I can do a little phone hacking, 1940s style. Wrapping up a long-standing cliffhanger from last year, I picked up the CED of Street Music that we saw at the time. Also, I picked up a whole stack of tapes. I grabbed one record ripoffs candidate on 8-track, all R&B and still sealed. Then cassettes from the Hill City Slickers, Jerry Junk, Johnny Raymond, and 6 tapes of Porky's Keyboard. I smell a potential new favorite here. Jumping figuratively right next door, quite literally, over to Last Stop CD Shop. Not necessarily thrifting, but I do have a long habit of raiding their bargain bins. Starting with the vinyl bargain bin, we've got a whole lot of country albums, and almost entirely from major artists and almost entirely autographed. I can't say I'm enough of a fan of any of these artists to pick any out, and you know what? Let's earn a little thrifting karma here. We'll let these slide. In the cassette bargain bin, hey, wait. Dazzy Ducks is really a thing? I thought that was just one of those weird laser karaoke typos. Anyway, already got Christine McVie on CD, but I don't have this New Riders of the Purple Sage album. Perhaps unsurprisingly, growing up a mile high, if you will, the old hippie DJs liked to spin Panama Red. Of course, if you're old enough, you know exactly what Panama Red is. Otherwise, this looks archive-worthy. The Young Fresh Fellows. Tape looks like it's from 1964, but apparently it's from 84, and Boxcar Willie strikes again. In the regular LPs, I finally find an Andy Fairweather Low album in the wild, and of course it's far and away his worst album. Wake me when a copy of La Booga Rooga turns up. Otherwise, another acquired UK musical taste, Fairport Convention. Now, this one is semi-notorious over in England for getting released with an outdated track list on the back cover. Here in the States, it was a non-issue. I already have this on CD, but they had such great artwork during this period. I'm getting it anyway. I love this album. They've started selling some laser discs here, and Vanna White movie notwithstanding, I haven't seen anything too noteworthy yet. I mean, they've had some decent titles, but they do tend to be Fleabay priced. And they've started selling the music titles on Discogs, I've noticed. And they tend to overgrade the condition. But yeah, it's decent enough, I guess. Or I'm just happy to have some kind of reliable Laserdisc source around here. Now, when I got my first Laserdisc player as a teenager, when the value of those things was totally bottoming out, I almost fleabayed a copy of The Last Waltz, but I already had it on DVD. But if that were thrift store priced, I might have picked that up. I already got that Rush one on VHS. Now, at the back, they had a copy of one of my favorites, Elephant Parts. And even at $10, this would have been mighty tempting, but the disc was freaking trashed. And it's just as well, they cut out a few of the sketches for this particular Laserdisc issue in the name of being able to issue it as a CAV mode disc. Always gotta hit up the 99-cent CDs, and I've actually had some really good finds in here. Got a promo copy of one of Laurie Anderson's albums there. Otherwise, one of the worst albums I've ever heard from a major oldies or classic rock artist, Neil Diamond's Headed for the Future, which sounded woefully instantly dated already back in 1988. Dion's Yo Frankie, Dion, Dave Edmunds, Lou Reed, and a handful of others, and it's half a good record, but the good half is great though. And it never ceases to amaze me some of the one-hit wonders that Rhino thought highly enough of back in the 80s and early 90s to give the full greatest hits package to. Anyway, if you're like me, the first thing you think of when you think of Carole King is great songwriter. So, of course, her Christmas album would be all covers. Her version of Every Day Will Be Like a Holiday is quite good, though. And the haul from this store consists of 2 cassettes, New Riders of the Purple Sage's Adventures of Panama Red, and seemingly a fairly early issue. And then we've got The Young Fresh Fellows. Could be interesting. From the 99-cent CDs, I found a copy of Peter Case's solo debut. I've already got all the Plimsoll stuff, but none of his solo stuff. Jerry Jeff Walker, Ridin' High, which is currently only available as a dodgy on-demand title, but this is the real silver CD. And lastly, on vinyl, Fairport Convention's Full House. And thanks to a half-used gift card I had kicking around, it slashed the price of this haul down by about 65%. Little side trip here. We are at the saddest strip mall in Sioux Falls, Party America, and this year's location for Spirit Halloween. Yeah, it's not thrifting, but I always stop in once a year. Tradition, you know. This'll be less than a minute long. Hey, they made human shish kebabs, and they didn't save any for me? Rude. Otherwise, skull lawn steaks. Sounds like a really messed up horse race. Oh, I hate it when my old baby pictures resurface online. So embarrassing. Fuzzy Bunny! Albeit fur-free. And I found the scariest item of all at Spirit Halloween. Seriously, just run it over some of the other items. You'll get nightmares for weeks. Brilliant, Subway. Brilliant. Anyway, St. Vincent's is always so busy anymore, so much so I had to park a block away, which is especially weird because I don't find much here anymore. Well, I was blissfully unaware that McDonald's brought back the McPunkin pails last year. I've already got my OG 1986 McPunkin, you whippersnappers. Anyway, I've actually never owned any of the Evil Dead movies on DVD, and at $1.50 it would have been an instant yes, assuming they were in decent shape, but, well, you know. And of course, Evil Dead 2, same story, and that's okay. Bruce Campbell is probably gonna tweet at me to just buy the damn Blu-rays already, you damn cheapskate. Otherwise, okay, I admit the teddy bear is kinda cute, and the ceramic figure is reasonably funny. Anyway, growing up in Denver, we saw a crap ton of Pumpkin Masters stuff, because, you know, that's where they were based. This one was sold at Kmart back in the early 2000s, and if I ever see any of the ones from the early and mid-90s that I grew up with, I'm snagging it, but yeah, this is a little too late. Poser. Get thee behind me, Satan! You can't seduce me with the prospect of sound. I have seen the evil of the plastic telecine. Anyway, was I the last generation that had to use a hand crank to make ice cream? Well, here's a uniquely late 80s low-end VHS deck, with HQ capability no less. Gotta get that extra 2% of signal-to-noise ratio. Anyway, I always gotta check out the slide carousels. And true to form, if there were any slides, they've been dumped. On that note, I found the slide projector it was probably used with. But you know what? I'm pretty happy with the Sears unit I picked up in Minnesota last year. Oh, hey, a speaker. Never seen one with a frequency response curve diagram on the front. Is that what that is? That's unique. More film stuff. This is a Chinon, whatever whisper. I've already got a few 8mm projectors that I'm pretty happy with, and actually one of which I picked up at this store. But this one, it's dual 8, it's silent, and it's pretty basic looking. It was missing the power cord, but I suppose it wouldn't be too hard to find a generic one. But yeah, I'll leave that for someone else. It's so rare I see Sound Blast or anything at the thrift store, so I've always got to check it out. But I can't really say I get this one. It seems to be an interface to hook up some larger speakers to your laptop. Now, this is from 2003, so laptops had built-in speakers by then, and you could always plug in some powered or passive ones into the headphone jack. I'm sure somebody out there knows something that I don't. Real plastic snow, as opposed to fake plastic snow? Either way, it's too early in the season for me to be even thinking about snow yet. And once I do, around here, I won't need plastic snow. Otherwise, I've been looking for some good shielded composite cables again, but nothing even remotely of the sort in here. In the VHS, it's kind of the greatest hits of cheesy, quasi-cult 80s cinema. Perfect. They had a copy of Midnight Express, and everyone's favorite, Staying Alive. But you know what? It's the 70s one that stands out to me. Foul Play. I already have this on Laserdisc, but I gotta see if this is an original issue. And guess what? It's not. It's got a hi-fi audio track, so that would put this at least 1983. But anyway, yeah, this came from Lewis, the Lewis drugstore, which up until about 2 years ago still had an old school video rental section. Now, don't get your panties in a wad. This is not an original Edison Diamond disc. This is one of those reproductions that were flying around about 10 years ago, and you can fleabay those for a few bucks a piece. Of course, if this were a real period Edison Diamond disc, yeah, I would have picked it up. Anyway, shifting back towards VHS, I don't remember Family Drug at all, but this tape seems to be from a lot later than the movie Born in East LA. Anyway, if I go down to the records, I found another installment in a series of Moog synthesizer-driven astrological albums, and I covered one of this series back on the Carlos Sploitation episode, and yeah, Redneck Mothers underneath. Anyway, I'm pretty sure this is the same record as the Scorpio one I covered, just with different voiceovers, but I'd have to listen to find out. But it looks like it's in good shape. 75 cents. Yeah, I'll pick it up. Or where Benny Boy will probably wind up someday. And the ultra-modest haul from this store consists of the Taurus Signs of the Zodiac album. And on to Savers. Oh, right, Savers. As Ian Hunter so eloquently put it, you're never alone with a schizophrenic. Anyway, that Ziggy never fails to crack me up. It just makes me want to roll him in that costume down a mountain. Otherwise, it seems to be something of a witch's starter kit down there, although the frog seems to have escaped from the jar. Well, it's been going on for several years now, but Savers has been peddling their line of alter ego budget costumes, and I don't know a single person who has ever bought one. Yeah, somebody decapitated the witch from out front. She did kind of deserve it, though. Anyway, let's talk cultural refuse for a moment here. So what else is new? But anyway, it looks like old Ghostface from the Scream movies is officially in the dustbin of history now. Which makes sense. I mean, they've been beating a dead horse since Scream 3. 1920s flapper hat or Indiana Jones hat? Tough choice. Actually, I don't think I could cram my big fat head into either of those. Oh, look, the world's lamest steampunk. Well, either there's a horror movie reference I've missed, or we're just dressing as mild 80s nerds for Halloween now. This is depressing. Well, they just put out their Halloween-ish movies, and the first Child's Play was actually one of the first horror movies I ever saw, and I was probably too young to see it. Anyway, I already have Thinner on Laserdisc, already have Pet Sematary on VHS, but otherwise, this doesn't look too promising. At the bottom, they had a few stray VHS tapes, and wasn't the first misadventure of Ichabod Crane bad enough? I'll leave this for a Canadian cartoon connoisseur. Otherwise, oh geez, nothing says Halloween like a cheap 80s crime drama. Yeah, they were reaching a bit with their titles this year. A fairly nostalgic regular DVD section today. Now, once upon a time, I would have jumped on this copy of Stay Tuned, which I've had on Laserdisc forever, but this is out on a restored Blu-ray now, so I'll pass. UHF, a classic, and that's on Blu-ray now too. A Canadian issue of My Cousin Vinny. I guess the Quebecois dub could be reasonably amusing. Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, which really needs to find its way back to KV. Now, this is true nostalgia. This was the very first DVD I ever owned, the first DVD issue of Caddyshack. Bought it in late 1998. The quality is atrocious. It's outright missing a few scenes. It actually seems to be a TV edit, and I've long since picked up the Blu-ray of this one. In the records, I've seen worse, but yeah, for the most part, it is the usual easy listening fluff. I wouldn't mind Donna Summer on CD, but not vinyl. Now, this damn near became a red letter day. The first Raspberries album. This is the only album of theirs I don't have, and it's absolutely scratched to hell. And as for the Tommy James and the Shondells disc I passed, that was one of the first LPs I ever owned, and I've still got it. Deeper into the records, I found the soundtrack to Against All Odds, and I'm kind of afraid to take a look at it now. Otherwise, the Flying Burrito Brothers, the first one without Graham Parsons, but I've already got that on vinyl and CD. And dare I admit, I already have some Gary Puckett in the Union Gap, already have some Leon Redbone. Oh yeah, time has come today. And I already have that one on CD. And this is one of those albums where people have worn the hell out of the hit and the rest of the record is pristine. And this copy looks to be no exception. It's really not a bad album, though. I found a Marantz CD changer. I can't say I see Marantz stuff too often. But for the life of me, Marantz or not, I just can't justify $50 for a CD changer that's about 90% on par with all the other ones in existence. Aside from that, I found another DVD recorder. I just picked a spare up back in June. This one kinda looks like it got buried in the backyard, though. Call me crazy, but I think somebody really dug Mitsubishi gear. And the final haul for this episode consists of, from the record store, a seemingly original US issue of Fairport Convention's Full House, in the poker sense. We've got cassettes from the Young Fresh Fellows and New Riders of the Purple Sage. We've got CDs from Jerry Jeff Walker and Peter Case. From St. Vincent's, we've got another installment in the Sounds of the Zodiac series from 1969. From the pawn shop, we've got a CED of street music, which I don't think has ever been reissued, 278s, a sound booth recording, and an early sound effects disc. We've got one Sheer Hit Records 45, and that could be a unique rendition of What's New Pussycat. We've got 6 cassettes direct from Porky's Keyboard, and I think we might end with a bit of that today. We've got one record ripoffs candidate, all R&B, and still sealed. Further cassettes from the Hill City Slickers, Johnny Raymond, and Jerry Junk. And the cost of this haul, partially thanks to a gift card, came out to about $24. And that's going to be it for this installment of Archive Thrifting. Something tells me I'm off to my annual Halloween doom now. I'll talk to you again soon.